Yeah. Well, I can see that we are. Wait a second. Yeah, we are live. Well, today is Wednesday, the 19th of the 2nd, 2020, and we are honored to be again with, well, I call him a friend, a very good friend of people and the human beings, not only mine. It's not my, not only my property. I mean that for all humankind and all the creation, Mr. David Icke, I'm so happy to have you here back for the Israeli audience. How are you, my dear friend? Well, you know, David, there are a lot of things that we can talk about, and of course we have to start, I think, we have to start with what is happening in the elections in Israel, because it's the third time in 1 year. I mean, we don't have a Knesset. You know, the Knesset is the government. We don't have a government. I mean, we don't have people who take care of the police, not the army, not nothing. I mean, what you think is the reason that the Israeli people is, I don't know, so stupid maybe, that cannot vote, and the vote is count, and we have the people that we elect. Why 3 times you think in 1 year, dear David? Why? Mm-hmm.
Governments to provide a different direction for the country or a different direction for the world. When you've got a permanent government, both nationally and that feeding into one that's global, then the agenda of that permanent government is also permanent. It's also permanent, and therefore whoever is theoretically, politically in power, that we have the illusion of choice. And to be honest, whether it's Benny Gantz or another dose of Netanyahu, Israel will go on going in the same direction. And this is the same with every country virtually, because you will have different emphasis and you will have different rhetoric. But if you just take a step back and just observe the direction before and the direction afterwards, you'll find that it's basically the same. For instance, take something like political correctness. If you have say the Democrats now in America, you will have political correctness come in faster because it's all this woke stuff. But even during Trump, who's supposed to be against all that, political correctness has gone on increasing and expanding in the United States, whether if we had a Labour government in Britain, because it's, quote, woke, which is the opposite of awake, by the way, then political correctness and all that goes with it would move quicker. But even under a conservative government that's supposed to be against all that, again, you still see the political correctness agenda expanding, not as fast, but still moving on and encompassing more and more things that people can't say and are not supposed to think. So if it's the permanent government's agenda that political correctness more and more expands, and what is political correctness except getting the population to silence itself, then that will happen under any party. So I think it's important we understand the massive limitations of party politics. Now, someone like Netanyahu will have more influence because he's so close to this permanent government in Israel, and therefore, basically, he's a frontman for it. And one of the reasons he's been in power for so long.
Well, you know, David, before, let me tell you when, okay? It was the 23rd of January, 2020. There was a big, in Yad Vashem. Yad Vashem is a place of the Holocaust, a name of the Holocaust, and all the Gvardia, all the biggest leaders of the world came to Israel. You know, there was like a train of airplanes in Tel Aviv that landed. Yeah, of course, the Putin and everybody. We're gonna touch Putin. Don't worry. Okay. And what he said there, he said, Benjamin Netanyahu, he said, we are ready for a new world order. In those words, Israel is ready for the new world order. Now, of course, we know that also Ehud Barak, say that before, but I believe that he was
Barak and Netanyahu answer to the same permanent government. That's why they say the same.
Of course, but I believe that Ehud Barak was very busy with Epstein. You know, when he was dealing with a lot of girls, little girls. So he was busy to do the new world order in Israel. But Benjamin Netanyahu, he's ready. He said, we are ready for this. And then I saw something very interesting that I keep here because I wanted to show you this. Well, I'm not going to show you. I'm going to read it. Just a second. Okay. Now I can read it. One of the he's a doctor. Yes, he's a doctor. And he said that it's about time that we're gonna have one big leadership, only one in all over the world, that takes care about all that is health. You know, all about the medicine and everything. And I check about him. I make a research, David, and you know, he is the one that Donald Trump, they're open in the University of Tel Aviv. They open with USA a center of making research and everything. And this guy, this doctor, I'm gonna tell you his name. He is the one that's going to manage and control all the connection that Israel and USA are making in the University of Tel Aviv. His name is Yoav Frumer. Yoav Frumer. And it's not just that Bibi now said we are ready for the new world order. Now there is the You know, the real connection with Israel and the USA are doing it for the one control of medicine, of health in all over the world. And after, I believe, it's going to be the economic, and after, of course, the police and the army, and of course the government. I mean, it's happening.
Well, you see, this has been in my books for the best part of 30 years, that this was the plan. And it's hidden by the apparent randomness of everything, where something happens in one country, something happens in another country, this happens with regard to this subject, that happens with regard to another subject. But when you see how it fits together, you stop seeing dots and pixels and you start seeing pictures and patterns. And what we have, and how this all works, and in part you've described one expression of it, is that we have a global web with a spider, if you like, a central core, controlling core. And this web operates in every country. There are particular countries where this web is especially strong. One of them is Israel. Another one is the United States. Another one is Britain, and so on. Another one is China. And while we see the individual governments of nations apparently representing the interests of their country, the core of that national government, that more accurate, that national network, actually fits into the global web. And at that web level, that global web level, those that control America and those that control Israel and control China, amazing as it may seem, but control European countries, etc., 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 are all on the same team, working to the same end. And you talk about this one world order, which of course is something I've been writing about again for 30 years. The idea, and we're moving to it now, and the reason more and more people are looking at my work is what was in my books decades ago is happening now, is a global, well beyond Orwellian control system, which will not be communism and it will not be fascism. Well, they kind of act like they are, and they are an expression of both. But it's not that ideology. It's something called technocracy. Technocracy is a government that is not elected, because they want an end of elected politicians, but a government and a country and a world that is run by technocrats, by experts, by engineers, by scientists, and by unelected bureaucrats. For instance, the European Union, because they have a so-called European Parliament with no power, really. They only have that so they can claim it's democratic. It's actually run, the European Union, by bureaucrats. And on that level, the European Union is already a technocracy. China is a technocracy. China is controlled already by technology. They have this system called the social credit system, whereby people are constantly tracked through face recognition cameras. I mean, the number of those they have in China is just almost unimaginable in number. And therefore, they can track where everyone is going and what they're doing. And artificial intelligence then records this, tracks this, monitors this. And this social credit system, which is running now, by the way, if people have not come across it, means that if you act and live your life in many and various endless ways, in the way the government wants, you get credit points. And if you live your life in ways that the government doesn't want, then you lose credit points. And if you fall below a certain level, then consequences kick in. And as I've written about in my books, millions and millions of Chinese have been banned from flying and banned from trains because their credit score has dropped below the acceptable level. And if you look at China, China is a tyranny, and thus they can bring in tyrannically anything they like. And because of that, this technocracy, this control of the population by technology and artificial intelligence, has been able to move faster there than anywhere else. But in the West, where still just they have to kind of bring the people along, less and less, but to some extent, they can't just introduce it and without any comeback. Obviously, it's not moved as fast, but it's moving faster and faster. And if you want an idea of what the West is going to be like, and Israel is going to be like tomorrow, then look at China today. And that's the reason that Silicon Valley and its multi-billionaire technocrats have so much connection to China and what's going on there, because what's happening in China is meant to move into the West. It's already doing so. And this is why the technocrats and the billionaires of Silicon Valley, no question, have more power today than do elected politicians. Most elected politicians in the world don't even know what's happening and don't understand what's happening in Silicon Valley. They don't understand what artificial intelligence is and all this stuff. So we're looking at a technocracy, and Israel is absolutely crucial to this.
Number one.
This global technocracy is building all around us what they call the smart grid, which is a grid run by artificial intelligence that controls everything that's connected to the internet, this Internet of Things, as they call it. And by 2030, according to Ray Kurzweil and others, a Google executive, they're going to be connecting the human brain to artificial intelligence. So artificial intelligence starts to dictate human perception and do human thinking. And you indicated there when you said number one, in my last book, a recent book called The Trigger, I not only explain with enormous detail who was behind 9/11, and it wasn't 19 hijackers that overwhelmingly couldn't fly one-engine Cessnas.
It's a joke.
Well, absolute joke. And in that book also, because it's very relevant to how 9/11 was pulled off, I talk about what you know a lot about, and that's this whole Beersheba complex, whereby Israel has built this enormous cyber center, which specializes in cybersecurity. And it's military run. They have an elite military cyber operation called 8200. And they employ enormous numbers of people, full-time and part-time, who actually go on the internet and pose as members of the public to attack anybody that criticizes Israel on the internet. It's kind of extraordinary the level it goes to. But more than that, and what I've done in The Trigger, I took a series of speeches that Netanyahu has made to AIPAC in America and to cyber conferences. And I've strung together what he said, and it's a very interesting theme. What he's saying is that Israel wants to become the cyber center of the world. And it is doing it very, very systematically. Of course, around Beersheba, you've got research and development operations of all the big Silicon Valley companies. I mean, Intel, which is in almost every computer, is basically an Israeli company, if you look at it. The Israeli government, or more than that in the background that controls the Israeli government and locks into this global web, is in the transition now to make Israel eventually the center point of this global grid. And of course, it's like everything else. You have the people running Israel and you have the elite that run Israel, you have the elite that run America and Britain, and none of those elites are working for the benefit of their people. The Israeli elite of this agenda, so is the British elite and the elites, the American elite. And so we need, as people, to stop allowing ourselves to be divided and ruled, and start to realize that we're all in the gun sights of the same force, and we ought to kind of come together and put aside any differences we have, and realize that there are more important things that we need unity on, and unity of purpose on. I will, I'll tell people in Israel, if they don't come across it, that their inner core elite have an absolutely vast network in the West of organizations whose job it is to stop anyone criticizing Israel. And what they're doing is expanding the definition of anti-Semitism, not to stop discrimination against Jewish people. Jewish people who criticize Israel get more abuse from this network than people who aren't Jewish. It's nothing to do with protecting Jewish people. It's using that as an excuse to stop legitimate exposure and criticism and debate about what this elite is doing. And the Israeli elite, like I say, is locks into the elites of other countries to create this global control system. And we better, stop being divided and ruled in the way that we are. Otherwise, this thing will reach its goal. A year that keeps coming up. Kurzweil talks about 2030 as the time when human brains will start getting connected to artificial intelligence. The United Nations is running a program called Agenda 2030, that year again, where they're using the hoax, and it is a hoax, of human-caused climate change to justify transformation of global society and centralization of global power to, quote, save the planet. And when you look at the latest predictions from what I call the climate cult, about how long we've got to save the world. I mean, we've had a few that have passed and we're still here, but the latest one, if you take it to the year that you get to from the time that it was said we've got 12 years to save the planet, you're looking at 2030, 2031 again. So this is a big point where you can see that in the next 10 years, they really want to get this stuff in place, this smart grid in place. And we had Prince Charles, who went to this Davos 1% fest in Switzerland. They have it every year, where Greta Thunberg was invited last year so that she could go onto the world stage, because she's just a front for this same 1%. She won't know that, but she is. And she went this year as well. And Prince Charles went. And he called in his speech at Davos for a transformed world economic system, because we need to do that to save the planet. And that transformed economic system is exactly what I call the global cult actually wants. And what year did he said it had to be done by? 2030. So we've got a time scale here very clearly.
Well, let me start with that what I think about, what I know about the three elections of Israel in 1 year is what I did my research is to make the Israeli people get used that they don't need a local government, because the Israeli people are very tough, with they're really tough to get in mind some sets. So they need to get through it, So this is what I found out, that the government is telling, not the government, the real leaders are showing the Israeli people, you don't need a local government. You can do it without 1 year. You're gonna do it more in the next years. Now the second thing that I want,
Just
yeah,
very quickly on that. That actually, what you've just surmised, actually fits with what I've just said. Of course,
of course,
they're getting people used to a post-democratic, post-elected government society. In fact, in their documents, they call it the post-democratic, post-industrial society.
yeah.
And so, yeah, you're absolutely right. That could absolutely well be part of the psychological game that's going on there.
Of course, of course. And now you can take what is happening with the, it doesn't look suspicious to you, dear David, that the corona, not the beer, of course, the corona started immediately in the same time that the son of Charles, Harry, yes, get an announcement, and he said, we want to support ourselves like normal people. We want to work like normal people and get our, and the name of this virus is the corona, the corn. David.
Well, the coronavirus and viruses like that, we don't know yet where it came from. What is pretty clear is it didn't come from this wet market they blamed on to start with. We now know that the first known case of the coronavirus had no connection with that market whatsoever. So it also just by chance, Wuhan, where it's supposed to have broken out, is a major biolab center of the Chinese government, and even mainstream politicians now in America particularly are saying, well, hold on a minute, is this something that's been created and released either on purpose or by accident? But releasing viruses is something that if you go back in my books quite a lot of years, I've quoted insiders of this web, this cult, saying that part of the agenda is to release viruses because, of course, it has tremendous control potential, especially if you have the antidote for yourself. Look at what's happening in China now, justified by this virus. What's happening is basically you can't get any more tyrannical than what's going on. Now, people might say, okay, it's justified because of what's happening. Not that we really know what's happening in China, but the point is they have the excuse to do that. And if the virus goes on expanding into other countries, well, the same potential will be there. And what you get, because people are basically frightened of death and frightened of the unknown, which is what frightened of death is, they are always in a situation where they kick in the survival mechanism. And when that happens, and they think that they may be in danger from a virus, they will accept anything virtually the government says we must do to protect you from this virus. And what you have is not only a tyranny being imposed, but vast numbers of the public supporting the tyranny being imposed. So these virus situations have tremendous potential to transform the world into a tyranny if they're used in that way.
Well, the beginning, I think that the beginning of the Agenda 21 is this, the medical way, because this is how you can catch the fear of people and make them do things that normally they don't do. So you put them in an abnormal situation. Like you said, they don't know what it is. They don't know from where it is. They don't know if it's real. I mean, come on. Nobody said it's real. Nobody. Even China, when they say, they give numbers and they give, I don't know, it's like a flu. It's not like a flu. They don't know nothing. So this is why we know that this is a part of an agenda, And I believe that this is the beginning of the end of the Agenda 21, and starting, like you said, 2030. This is what is, they are going there. I mean, just to let the Israeli people know what a treasure you are, David, for the human being. I mean, they can look back to all the books that you wrote, and they can see exactly. It's like a guiding of a map. Really, it's not to give you just a compliment. You know me. I'm really straight. I tell the truth, and if people really, the Israeli people, start to read, but really read, go deep and dive deep inside of what you give, I mean, it's very easy to see and connect that everything. I mean, you did the work. You did the work for the people, and this is why the connection of the international world, like we are doing now, and I do with others in Spain, in China, in all over the world. This is the real solution of the problem that they are creating us. We have to take down all the layers. We have to really understand that maybe we talk different languages, or maybe, but we are all in the same plate. I mean, there is no way to run or escape. No leadership is going to take responsibility about nothing in our lives. And I want to hear from you what you think is going to be the next step that the people are going to wake up of it. You understand what I'm asking? I mean, because things are happening and people don't wake up. They say them like entertainment, news, I don't know. What is going to be the next thing that the people are going to say, oh, now we see what happened?
Well, you know, when I started researching this and writing this in 1990, 91, it was, and you start to uncover what the plan is. You realize that what they are, or were then, they're already doing it now, but what they were planning to do was so extreme and so fantastic that it was going to have to go quite a long way down that road so that people could start to see it before enough would realize that actually what they thought was too fantastic to be true is actually happening. And we are kind of moving into that area now. And I would say also from my own experience that it's easy to think that people have certain mass views because of what we hear in the mainstream media. What happens in that arena is the shrill voices who are parroting and promoting and propagandizing this agenda for the world, most of whom have no idea what the agenda really is. They dominate the microphones for a simple reason. Then the mainstream media give them access when they're parroting the narrative. But away from that, in the street and the supermarket aisles, a tremendous number of people, and getting bigger all the time, think very differently. So you have, for instance, all the shrill voices going on about political correctness, as a, censor this, censor that, you can't say that, you can't think this. But away from those people pushing it, who have the cameras and the microphones, vast numbers of people absolutely don't want it and are sick of it. And the reason they don't speak out, there's two. One is they don't get access to the mainstream media, so they don't get that access to speak out. But another is the intimidation. More and more people are being subject to the consequences of speaking their opinion, saying what they think, whether it's transgender, whether it's about Israel's government, whether it's about political correctness in general, whether it's about the fact that climate change is caused by humans is a hoax to justify the centralization and transformation of human society to a global tyranny. Whatever it may be, people are seeing the consequences. You know, if you're an academic and you see a professor of biology lose his job because he's had the outrageous nerve to say that there are two biological sexes, male and female, and that they're different, then if you're an academic and you've got a mortgage to pay and a family to feed, then you're going to look on and you're going to say, well, I'm not going to go there because I know the consequences. If you are a climate scientist and if you sing from the song sheet of the narrative, you are going to get paid a lot of money, which is what happens. But if you challenge the narrative of human-caused climate change, then you're going to get not only abuse, you're going to lose your job. It's happened to many climate scientists. Then you're most likely to keep your mouth shut, keep your head down, and just parrot the script. And this next stage, which is the point you bring up, is that people are going to have to, unless they want this to reach fruition in the next decade, and I'm being optimistic with a decade, they need to whatever position they're in, to start speaking out about this, to summon some backbone. Because if they think, well, no, I'm frightened of the consequences of speaking out now, well, if you want someone to be frightened about, you wait 10 years and 20 years and 30 years. And by the way, that's in the period that your children and grandchildren are going to be in the eye of this storm as it comes into full-blown global tyranny. So it's time now for those who have seen it to speak out and not be intimidated into silence, because the most insidious, dangerous, destructive form of censorship is self-censorship, because there's no debate, nothing. There's no debate because no one actually says anything that challenges the narrative. So people have got to look in the mirror and ask themselves, or even just imagine 10, 20 years from now, if your kids or grandkids says, Mum, Dad, Granddad, Grandma, what were you doing when this came in? What will you say to them? I kept my head down because I was frightened of the consequences. What's the point in that? The consequences are going to get more and more and more extreme the longer we fear the consequences of speaking out. And like I say, the most important thing that we need to do is put the fault lines down. I don't care if someone's Jewish or Islamic or middle-class American or black South African or whatever. I care about their behavior and their what they do. The background, the religion, the race, the culture doesn't matter. It's you look at any group of people, any race, any culture, any religion, don't matter what they are, and I'll show you nice people, genuine people, okay people, and I'll show you psychopathic people at the other end of the extreme. This is in every culture. So if we start judging people by whether they are followers of this religion or they're this race or this culture, then what we're doing is missing the point completely. It's not about group think and group judgment. It's about individual behavior, individual attitudes, individual opinions. And if you look at what's happening, they are building systematically groupings in which exactly that happens. You judge people by whether they're in that group, not if they're nice people in that group or psychopaths in that group, but just because they're in that group. And you see this with the transgender arena and these other woke arenas and areas of subject. and you see it everywhere. White people, white people don't get applied to with political correctness. You can say anything you like about white people. There's no political correct comeback for that. Say what you like about Christianity. There is no comeback for that. But other religions and other racial groupings, oh, no, you can't say that. Now, that is racism, and it is not justice and fairness and everyone be treated the same, which is what I stand for. And I say those things as someone who wouldn't care less if my body was born into a Jewish community, an Islamic community, whatever. It's just a body for my consciousness to experience this reality briefly. And I say that as someone who's not Christian or a follower of any religion. But it's only basic fairness. And once you get into this groupthink, and you start identifying with a group instead of identifying with fairness and justice for everybody, then the divide and rule potential of that is absolutely fantastic. And that's what's going on in the world. We need to grow up and stop letting labels of whatever kind dictate our perceptions, dictate our self-identity, and dictate how we treat other people. Then we've got a chance, because we're removing the fault lines of divide and rule. Because if there's a few of you, and in the real core of this cult, it's a very few, even globally, then you, from that small number, have to manipulate your target population to control itself. And one of the best ways to do that is get different factions of the target population at war with each other. So they're too busy fighting each other to look up and see that the strings attached to them are the strings attached to the people they're fighting, and both sets of strings are held by the same hand. This is the situation we face. And so put aside the labels. We're all consciousness having an experience, and let's realize that we're all in this together, because while we're divided, we will be ruled by a very few people.
You know, something interesting that happened, people are asking me, okay, Guy, but what you offer to do? I mean, what, to leave the country, to live in nature? I mean, it's going to be a chaos. It's going to be, you know, a big balagan, like we say here in Hebrew, a big mess. But you know something I realized that happened here in Israel, the last months I see it more. People are taking caravans with car and leaving the country, the city, I mean, you know. Something very interesting, and Israel is not that big, you know, David. And
I know
people to do that. I mean, it's not a step that they make. They don't make it because they decide to make it. I realize that they make it because they lost everything. The Israeli people are suffering so much, and
but the bank. Yeah, this is a really important point. And I know this from personal experience, because this, what I call ultra Zionist hate groups around the world in this network run by this cult, they're targeting people,
Satan himself,
and they are calling them anti-Semitic, to silence their public meetings, to silence them on the internet and YouTube and all the rest of it. And they do not represent the Jewish community. They just claim to. They self-proclaim to. What they represent is this cult that tries to silence people using the Jewish community as the excuse, because they don't want what they're doing to be exposed. The reason it's important is that these ultra-Zionist hate groups around the world, they're all locked together. And I call them hate groups for a simple reason. Their modus operandi is to get the people, the public, to hate their targets. They demonize their targets. They demonize me. Doesn't bloody work with people with half a brain on active duty. Only have to read my books to realize that, you know, connecting me to any form of racism is ludicrous. I say all labels are just illusions. This is just a body, whatever it is, to allow us to briefly experience this reality for a short time. Don't get caught in the fact of I am are this and I am are that. You are consciousness, the same consciousness we all are, having an experience in a body called a label. So the idea is ludicrous, but the point is that it's giving the Jewish people a bad name around the world, in the sense of, like everything, we're back to what I said a few minutes ago, judging everybody by the group. So I hear people, sometimes say, it's the Jews. It's not. It's not. As you rightly point out, Jewish people, large numbers of Jewish people in Israel, are treated with absolute contempt by the Israeli elite, just as the American people are treated with contempt by their elite, and Britain the same, and France the same, Germany the same. So, but what I would say is, if people don't start speaking out and saying that these censorship groups, which target Jewish people, like I say, more fiercely than anybody else, if they don't start speaking out and saying, hold on a minute, this guy should not have his freedom of speech, or this lady should not have her freedom of speech destroyed, and it should not be done in my name by this group that's controlled by the Israeli government. Do you know, we've had a situation in the last couple of weeks where a journalist in America called Abby Martin, she used to work for RT, she was stopped from speaking at a university because she refused to sign a pledge of allegiance to Israel. This is an American speaking at an American university, and can't unless she signs a pledge of allegiance to Israel. And this is happening in many, many states. We've had Roger Waters, the Pink Floyd singer, who's had his promotion of his musical events banned by the National Baseball Association, or whatever they call their organization in America, because of B'nai B'rith going to the baseball organization and saying this guy is an absolute anti-Semite. He's not. He just thinks, wouldn't it be nice if Palestinians were treated with fairness and justice? So he's had his promotion in America of his events banned. Now, when these ultra-Zionist hate groups do this, the psychology is, it's the Jews. It's not. People being treated in Israel, Israelis, with contempt by their elite, are not having Roger Waters' promotions banned. They're not demanding a pledge of allegiance by Americans to American states. And if people realized in Israel the scale of the censorship that's coming out of there, in their name wrongly, they would be aghast, because it's not good for the way that people see Jewish people in general, because, like I say, they keep making the same mistake of saying that person from this group is doing this, so all of them are responsible. It's not true, but that's the way it goes.
Well, as you know, that I told you a few times that we talk, I told you that here they are destroying the Jewish people from the families. They start there. This is why they did the Court of Family in 1995. You have more than 200 fathers are hanging themselves and suicide every year in Israel when they are fighting for the right to raise the kids. And another important point, I think, dear David, is I told you about the caravans now, and the people are getting out of the city because they lost everything. But the major of the people keep on being a sheep, and it's not that they are not smart, as you said, they are not stupid. And the Israeli people suffer, believe me, if I want the people in the world really understand. The Israeli people are shouting for help, really help, because they have to act normal in an unnormal way of living. And they know the power that Israel have in all over the world with the leaders. You know what I mean? It's like a very psychologic, I believe it's a very psychologic system and situation that the Israeli people have to deal with. They cannot talk out because they have to deal it inside. They have the conflict. You understand what I mean, David?
Mm-hmm.
So what is the way? I really want to wake up all Israel. This is why I do what I do. How can I, do something? Tell me what to do to wake up every Israeli, please.
Well, I've been doing this for a long time.
I know.
What I've never tried to do is to try to persuade people that they should do anything in terms of see that what I'm saying has validity. It's their choice. All you can do is put information in front of people, and then they decide. And the information must do its work. What you're working against is fear. People are frightened of taking on authority. But if we don't, then that authority is going to lock down everything on a level that would have made George Orwell wince. So it's time that people realize that doing nothing is no longer an option unless you want to accept global tyranny operating in every single country. And by that, I mean the absolute 24/7 control of everyone's life via AI and technology in the way that is most obvious, but nowhere near the final planned outcome in China. And what people need to do is start getting together with others. If one person takes a stand, well, yes, the government can pick them off. But if loads and loads of people come together and take a stand together, it's much more difficult. The numbers alone show the reality of where the power is. There's 7 billion people plus in the world now,
yeah.
And the number of people in full knowledge of what they're doing and why that are driving the direction of the world is a unbelievable fraction of that 7 billion. And like I say, divide and rule is crucial because they have to divide that massive number of people, because the consequences for the few of that massive number starting to realize the game is obvious. It's game over. So it's important that people realize that doing nothing is no longer an option, because if you do nothing, you're going to have to face yourself as this trots on or sprints on as it is now. And every day you're going to see it moving further and further along the road. So let's just stiffen the backbone and do what we can now, rather than wait until we're much further along the road and the control system of AI and technology is further along the road than it is now, and becomes with every day more difficult to to unravel. And so it's important that people get together in groups, and that those groups connect with each other, and let's get some kind of movement together, not just focusing on certain subject areas, but those subject areas connecting with other groups operating in other subject areas, because it all fits in the end. You can see a situation with transgender, which is more and more expanding, and you can't say this, you can't say that, can't say the other. And then you see Elon Musk using his SpaceX operation to put thousands, tens of thousands of satellites in the sky. And astronomers are complaining they can't see the night sky as they could before. Now, if you looked at those two situations, you'd say, well, there absolutely is no connection between them. What's the connection between transgender and Elon Musk and what he's doing in the sky? But you can put it together because they're all part of the same thing. This smart grid is based on what Ray Kurzweil, the Google executive, calls the cloud. Think Wi-Fi, a global Wi-Fi cloud of information, which and AI, which he wants to attach the human brain to. Talks about connecting the brain to the cloud. Now, if you're going to have a global cloud to which the population and all technology is going to be connected, and then whoever controls the cloud controls everything connected to it, then you're going to have to cover every inch of the planet with Wi-Fi. No area omitted. And what's happening with Elon Musk is that these tens of thousands of satellites that are going up are designed overwhelmingly to beam back at the Earth Wi-Fi and 5G, this next level of communicative power, which is being introduced without testing because it's vital to make this grid work. So Musk is making it possible for this smart grid to function with the connections coming from space. Elon Musk, his grandfather was the leader of the Canadian Technocracy Party in the 1930s. The Technocracy Party that was campaigning for the very world that I've been describing in this chat, the technocracy world that we're seeing now in China.
Wow.
And Elon Musk, just a coincidence, nothing to worry about, who's playing a major part, not just through SpaceX and the satellites, but through electric cars, which are just a stepping stone to autonomous cars connected to the grid. And autonomous cars mean that the computer, which you won't control, will decide where you can go and where you can't go. Because if they don't want you to go somewhere, instead of you driving there in a petrol car like you would now, you can't, because the car won't take you there, because the computer will be encoded not to take you there. He's also, Elon Musk, come out some years ago, you may remember, and said that AI could be the end of humanity. Brackets true. And yet, connecting AI to the human brain, etc. And then he starts a company called Neuralink to connect the brain to computers. So Elon Musk, I do tend to use the word fraud and Elon Musk in the same sentence quite often these days. So you've got that side. There's Elon Musk. So how's that connected to transgender? Well, where they're going is that not only are they creating this technological grid, they want to transform the human body from a biological state to a synthetic biological state. You hear this thing called synthetic biology all the time now. So the synthetic human, and is being developed in the public arena to an extent, but the real deal is outside the public arena, where it's much farther ahead than anything you see in the public domain. This synthetic human will not be able to procreate. They will be created technologically. And that's exactly what Aldous Huxley described in Brave New World, written in 1932, because he knew what was coming. The reason Brave New World was so accurate, incredibly that far past, with what's happening now, and the reason that George Orwell was so accurate, in 1984 and could talk about technology like telescreens that saw you in your own, recorded you in your own front room, when that technology was not even near to be known about in the public arena. But now we have them. They're called smart televisions.
Yeah.
And these smart televisions today are only Mark 1 and 2 of where it's going. Nothing like where it's meant to go. And so you have this synthetic human goal agenda where they won't be able to procreate. And because they won't be able to procreate, first of all, there's no need for men anymore. And you see this, that men are being targeted by the woke mafia around the world, and sperm counts are falling dramatically around the world, particularly in the Western world. You then have this situation of, okay, this synthetic human not only won't be able to procreate, it will have no gender. So how do you go from male, female, very clear perceptions of people, male, female, two sexes, to that?
Yeah.
Well, what you do is you confuse gender, and then you fuse gender, which is what's happening. This is why I quote a guy in the book, in my books, who was a big Rockefeller family insider, who addressed a meeting of pediatricians in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania in 1969, and shocked everybody by asking them to turn off recording equipment and not take notes, because he was going to tell them how the world was going to change. And one of the doctors did take notes, and in around 2004 did a series of interviews with an alternative website, because he'd realized that what this guy, Dr. Richard Day, was called, he worked at the Mount Sinai Hospital in New York and was an executive of Planned Parenthood, a Rockefeller organization. This doctor realized that what Day said in 1969 was going to happen was happening. So he did a series of interviews. And one of the things that Day said in 1969 to those pediatricians is, we're going to make boys and girls the same. And we're seeing this now, this incessant hysteria of propaganda about the no gender human, in effect, the fused gender human. The people, 99% of them, who are pushing this will have no idea what's behind it. But what's behind it is moving to this no gender, no procreation, synthetic biological human. So you there have two things: Elon Musk and what he's doing, and the transgender agenda, and they're fundamentally connected. And if people read my books, they'll see that everything in the end is connected. For instance, another thing that Richard Day said in 1969 to those pediatricians is what they were going to do was manipulate a situation where there were massive movements, migrations of people into Europe, America, etc., as it's turned out, to transform those cultures, because, he said, we are going to delete countries. He talked, as I have, about a world government, which is what this technocracy will be controlled by. And the world government would control the entire planet. And instead of having countries that would just break up into different regions, you'd have the world government, then you'd have the super states under that, like the European Union. And then under that, you'd have regions, nations and countries would be gone. And as he said to those doctors, Richard Day, it's much, much easier to get people to accept that their countries disappear, in effect, I'm paraphrasing him, and to bring an end to nations, if you have cultures that are flooded with other cultures, and you have a cultural fusion. Now the indigenous sense of culture is being diluted, and as it's diluted, the resistance to having the country itself disappear um, obviously gets less and less and less as a defined culture itself disappears. And where this is going, it's not, people say, oh, racism. Oh, I don't care. I care about the truth. Grow up. The thing to remember, it's like that pastor Nehemiah is quoted as saying in Nazi Germany. First they came for the communists. I wasn't a communist, so I did nothing. Then they came for the trade unionists. I was not a trade unionist, so I did nothing. Then they came for the Jews, and I was not a Jew, so I did nothing. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak out for me. This is the process that's happening. They're targeting Western society now, and they're targeting Western culture. They're targeting the white race overwhelmingly. That's why there's no protection from political correctness for that. But the idea is once you pick that one off, you pick the next one off and the next one off. Because what this world government tyranny wants is one global monoculture where there are no defined cultures of any kind. And we're only seeing one being targeted at the moment. But once that's sorted, the rest will be picked off one by one by one. And that will include, by the way, the Jewish culture and the Judaistic culture that you now recognize as the Jewish community's way of going about things. So we're all in the gun sights, and we need to come together. Otherwise, they'll succeed, and we mustn't let them.
That's right. When you talk about the transformation, you know what I see? You remember in your lections that you give, there is a picture of someone in the government, and there is a bubble. And in the back, you have someone there in the back, like using him as a puppet.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you think that they are doing now the same to the people, to the normal people, like simple people, like they are the controller of, they giving the people to create simulation of themselves and control it from, you know what I mean?
Well, this process of transforming humans as we know them, let me just say what Kurzweil has said is going to happen around the period of 2030, that the human brain will be connected to AI, and I'm quoting him here, that from that time, AI will do more and more of human thinking until human thinking, as we know it today, is virtually negligible. There is words. And the idea is to move towards the digital, virtual human. So basically, this sounds fantastic, but if people only look at the evidence, and indeed what's unfolding, they'll realize that the fantastic is actually true. They're moving us towards becoming a virtual reality phenomenon, virtual reality race. What they're doing now already is creating people that don't exist. Virtual people, and if you saw them on the internet and on your computer screen, and you saw pictures of them, you could see them on the internet, you could see what they were doing and what they were saying, you'd think they were human, but they're not. They're not even a copy. They're not even a copy of a human, a digital copy. They are a digital creation of a totally new person and personality that you would take to be human. And you look at how these robot people, that are being developed, particularly in places like Japan, they're getting closer and closer to human. And the idea is what's happening is humanity is being fused with AI, fused with machines, so that we actually eventually become the machines. This is get assimilated by the machines. And here's the way they're doing it. in a very everyday manner. The idea is that you get people to more and more and more interact with AI as if AI is human. So you're starting to fuse the difference between humans and AI. And here's a great example of it. Personal assistants. They have these devices, is it Echo and Siri and all these things in their homes. Some people I've come across have one in every room.
Yeah.
And they're interacting with this AI device as if AI is human. So that's the dynamic of the interaction. And then you've got car manufacturers now who are introducing these personal assistants into cars. So now you're going to be in your car chatting with AI as if it's human. You've got all these toys now for young kids, get them as young as possible, and then you'll get them for life. Dolls and other things where they're AI attached to the internet, and you are communicating with AI as if this doll is human. And so what they're doing is fusing this difference between human and machine AI in the same way they're fusing the difference between male and female. And they are fusing us into this completely different human, not just in terms of the human form, but also in terms of the human mind, which will actually be the AI mind. And this is moving so fast because they want to move this quick enough that it's in place and in a situation of control before enough people have realized it's happening. And what I'm trying to do, excuse me, is alert people, as many people as possible, so we do see it's happening before the fait accompli is complete.
You know, when I talk with one of my best friends, he's a very big mentalist in the world. He's making show all over the world. He told me, we have a lot of chats together, and he told me, he asked me, Guy, where this is going? And listen what I said to him. Take a look at you as example. You can have 2,000 people with your mentalist make all together, draw something, the same picture with your tricks that you have of mentalism. It's not magic, okay? Because it's the human behavior and the human, how he act and react, that you talk about it all your life. I mean, David. I said to him, imagine what can happen when you have those boats, like robots, yes, that have every nuance of people. They are studying the human being. They create themselves a natural human being, how they act, how they work, how they action, reaction and everything. Imagine what can happen who have the control of the button of all the what happened now with human, what is going to happen with human. It's the same that you say, David, one word by word. You don't miss nothing of what you say. I offer people to really read your work because it's like really magic to have everything so very good explained. That I mean, you don't take it to a high level to understand. You really deliver it like it's humanity. This is why I'm saying all this. And when I talk with you about the Israeli people are going like sheep, when I explain them about George Soros, and I say to them, listen, this is, I give the facts, as you say, I show the people the facts, but they say no. But look what he do good. I said yes, but he give 85% of the money to good things, but the 50% that he put of evil, pure evil, David, pure evil. They don't see that. They don't see that. They said, "Guy, you are conspiracy guy." You understand?
Yeah, because there are no conspiracies. No one has ever conspired with others to create an end, an outcome. They've never done that. It's just an illusion that anyone's ever done that. The fact that it's happening all the time, shouldn't make people believe that it is actually happening. George Soros is a classic. He has so far handed over $32 billion to a network called the Open Society Foundations. Now, the name of that gives the game away immediately. Open Society. What that means is open borders. And that's why George Soros is funding non-governmental organizations, charities, and other fake grassroots operations known as AstroTurf, fake grassroots, in America and Europe to drive this mass migration agenda, which is the agenda of this global cult, like I've explained. This Open Society Foundation network operates in 100 countries. It was, and you'll see if people read the books, it was behind the Arab Spring. See, and it was behind the coup, not the revolution, the coup in Ukraine. You see, you can only, if you want to regime change countries, you can only do an Iraq and a Libya a certain number of times before people say, hold on a minute, we're invading someone else. What's going on? So the ideal that you want, this is very relevant to Israel and the Middle East. The ideal you want is to manipulate the population of the target country to remove the regime for you. So what you do, and this is what these Open Society Foundations specialize in, you train and fund people in the art of civil disobedience, and you put them into target countries. They start to cause unrest. Now, as they cause unrest, because in most countries there's a lot of injustice, the environment, the climate is always there to stir up unrest. So you stir up unrest. Now, more and more people from the population who are genuinely wanting to overthrow the regime, but have no idea where the core is being controlled from, they then join the agitation and the unrest. And eventually what you have, as you had in, that square in Cairo, a vast number of people there together to overthrow the regime. What you do, however, is you make sure, when you orchestrate this, that on the other side of the fake revolution, in this case the Arab Spring, there's not a genuine government of the people in place. So we had the Arab Spring in Egypt, which resulted in Egypt now being run by a military junta. I mean, it's a joke. And the same happened in Syria, and the same happened in Libya. And what you do is this. In those situations, you don't just have civil unrest and what have you. You actually arm the opposition. So they armed the opposition in Libya because they wanted rid of Gaddafi. They have done for a long time. And they armed the opposition in Syria. And what they then do is get that opposition to start firing and attacking the regime that they want to unseat. When that's happening, basically the global media and the global political network is silent. And then the governments that were being targeted respond to the attacks by the people armed by the West, not least America, And at that point, the politicians can't get to a microphone quick enough, and the media can't write big enough headlines. He's killing his own people. And so what happens is the Soros organizations create the agitation and the unrest. And then when the government responds to the unrest or even the armed opposition, then the politicians come in and say, he's killing his own people. We've got to go in and protect the people. So NATO and the European countries and Britain, always in there, and America, they protected the people of Libya from violence by bombing the crap out of them and destroying the place and turning the highest per capita income country in Africa into a basket case in which people are being openly slave traded in the markets. And you've got the warlord factions, which Gaddafi was keeping apart and under control, now running riot against each other. And that, of course, because the way this whole plan is worked out is like dominoes. You know, when they put all those dominoes in a line and you knock the first one, it knocks the second, knocks the third, and eventually they all fall. This is how this plan is worked out. So they knew they didn't just want to cause mayhem in Middle East Arab countries, a policy that was driven out of the elite of Israel, by the way, in conjunction with the elite in America. They didn't want to just do that. They knew that if they knocked that domino down, then the chaos and the violence would be such that vast numbers of people from those countries would try to flee.
Yeah. And
they did. And they fled into Europe. And they were at first genuine refugees. And I'm the first to say, hey, we need to help these people and take them in. But what then happened is these Soros organizations and others then started to get vast numbers, far, far greater numbers of migrants that weren't fleeing war from other countries in the Near East and Africa to piggyback on the movement of people into Europe. To increase the numbers dramatically. So what do they say? Two birds with one stone? That's what they did. And so what you've got is this double whammy. The Soros organizations create the agitation, which creates the excuse to go in. And you then use the military on the back of that excuse to go in and remove the regime that you want. And of course, without the intervention of Russia, Assad would have been gone by now, just like Gaddafi is gone.
That's right.
Oh, and by the way, the moment Trump was elected, because Trump is owned by the elite that run Israel.
Of course.
The moment he was elected, I put on the internet just very soon afterwards, key word of the Trump administration, Iran, because Iran's on their list as well. And the only reason that Trump, who's given the Israeli elite everything it wanted, moving the embassy, this deal of the century, which is just I mean, fairness and justice. Are we having a laugh? So the reason they've got all that is because they own him. But what he's not given Netanyahu yet is what Netanyahu really wants, and those that control Netanyahu. More to the point. And that's a war with Iran. And the reason he's not been able to do that, although he's basically at war with them now through sanctions, is because Trump came to power in 2016 on the basis of he wouldn't go into these foreign wars that Obama had and Bush had, etc. So he's coming up this year to another election, and it would be electoral suicide to go to war with Iran before that election. If he wins, after that will be quite another thing, although I think people need to keep their eyes on Michael Bloomberg. on that side, on the Democrat side as well, in relation to that. But so these things are not happening by chance. And the way they defend George Soros is the usual way. They say to criticize George Soros is anti-Semitic. Well, it is if you're criticizing him because he's Jewish. That's the definition of anti-Semitism for me. Discrimination or hatred of Jewish people for being Jewish. I challenge Soros and what he's doing because of what he's doing and the effect on the world and the effect on vast numbers of people. And, people may look at some of the things he does and say, oh, he's doing good things. I tell you, after tracking this guy for 30 years, the things that may seem good on the surface have ulterior motives as well that are beneficial to this agenda. And so this is a wonderful example of what I said earlier. Instead of looking at George Soros or Michael Bloomberg, whatever, and saying Soros is Jewish, you look at him and you say, what is Soros doing and how is that affecting adversely other people, in this case, vast numbers of people? And you make a judgment on what he's doing, not what he is, what he's doing. And if we do that, then these efforts to demonize those who are trying to uncover for everybody what's going on in the world will not be silenced as they are by being called anti-Semitic or racist when it's the last thing that they are.
Well, what can I say? Well, the Trump building, the Trump Tower, is controlled by the 666 Tower of Kirchner. This is one. What do you think about what happened with England is going out of the UN?
The European Union, yeah. You see, this is another example of people who don't get access to the microphones reaching a point where they've had enough. The same will be in Israel. You will know this more than I will. Vast numbers of people in Israel will say, I've had enough. What? I've had enough of it. And what has been happening is this, and this is how politics works. See, when royalty, dictatorship by royal inheritance came to an end, although we still got, versions of it with the royal family, unfortunately, in Britain, there was a chance that we might break out into some kind of just system, and the central core could not control anymore through the monarchs. So they invented something called party politics. It's all systematic. I'll explain what I mean. Because with a party, you have a collective. You don't have people making individual decisions based on individual situations and subjects and voting and supporting or opposing on the basis of that individual situation and subject. You have a collective called a party which has an agenda. And then people who are members of that party are pressured by the collective to support what the agenda of the party rather than their individual conscience and their individual views. So you have the ability to impose an agenda on a party. So you come in, you join a political party, you decide you'd like to become a member of parliament or something. So you are then selected by members of the party or interviewed to become a candidate in an election. For you to be chosen as a candidate, you have to say what the party wants you to say, or you will not be chosen. You then get chosen, you stand for election, and you win, so you go into parliament. Now, if you want to progress through to become a prime minister or a minister or a member of government, you have to keep towing the party line. Don't be a rebel, or your career will be seriously damaged. And so the party is basically a collective that's driving an agenda. And then you have another party, and this party or that party can become the government. So you've got an agenda here, an agenda there. But what people don't see is that these parties are controlled from the shadows by these secret society networks. And therefore, in effect, both parties are masks on the same face. And how it works is that you've got this permanent government that I mentioned earlier, and they control the political parties. And they give the public the illusion that they have choice by every now and again, the parties change who are running the government. So it works like this. You choose party A and it gets elected to government, okay? It runs for a few years. You don't like what it's doing, because what it's actually doing is introducing the agenda of the permanent government. So you have another election and you think, oh, I'm not voting for party A anymore. I'm going to give party B a chance. So you vote for party B, and party B gets in the government. And then you watch them and you say, well, hold on a minute. Same things are happening. Why? Because they are also imposing the will of the permanent government. So you come to another election and then you think, well, how do I get party B out of power? Well, you vote for party A. In most countries, that's the only choice. Sometimes there's a party C, but mostly party A and B. And so I'll tell you a story. I was in Ukraine when the Arab Spring Revolution was going on in Egypt. And the president there was called Yanukovych,
yeah,
who has been thrown out in a coup. The point being, though, that he was thrown out in another revolution in 2004 called the Orange Revolution. Mm. And what happened is the people threw Yanukovych out and brought another guy in. And the other guy, eventually, most people wanted rid of him. But Yanukovych, who was thrown out in a revolution, was still the leader of the only other party that had a chance of removing this guy that they put in as a result of the revolution. And so they voted Yanukovych back in that they'd thrown out in a revolution before.
Not wasting time.
and then you had this other coup, and Soros's Open Society foundations were massively involved in that unrest in Ukraine. And they get rid of Yanukovych and he goes off to Russia. You know, what you see on the news is not what's going on.
Of course.
It's not what you see on the news.
Who watch television? I don't know.
So this is what's going on in Israel. How do I know? Because it's going on everywhere. You've got this cabal in the shadows that controls Mossad and the military and Shin Bet, etc., and the courts. And then you've got the parties,
yeah,
who are here today, gone tomorrow people. If Netanyahu had not served the interests and the agenda of this hidden grouping all this time, he would not have been prime minister for as long as he has been.
For sure.
Someone else would come in who would serve that agenda.
Of course. Now tell me, David, I know that you have to run and you have to do more things.
Well,
but
at my age, less run, more walk quickly.
My friend, tell me please a little bit about how is going the things with iconic.com, please, if you can. Because I see the work. Look, people maybe don't know, but you let me 35 seconds, okay? Your great and talented boys, Gareth and Jeremy, they are doing a beautiful work with you. because well, I know what they do. and this iconic.com is I think you are closing a ring for yourself, something that you started before and you didn't thought maybe about this happen in the future, but you have all your family there, all your children's there, and it's like you make for them some let's say a floor to step on, a clear one, a clear mind one, for to make the next step and the next level to help other people to wake up. Now you can continue. I'm sorry, I had to say that. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, Iconic is fantastic, and I can say that because I didn't create it. My son Jamie did, and Gareth, my other son, who's multi-talented, has been part of that as well. We were looking, and Jamie was certainly looking at the hysterical censorship that's going on in what you might call now the mainstream internet. People like YouTube. YouTube owned by Google, and Google's owned by this global web, same as Facebook, and Amazon too. You need to prepare ahead of the game and not just react when it's happened. So what Jamie's done is create a new media platform called Iconic, which it already has phenomenal amounts of content. These are documentaries, these are series that are added to every week and month. He's in New Zealand actually at the moment, shooting a documentary on Wi-Fi and 5G, which is going to be shot in multiple countries, which will be out in a few months. It's just amazing. I mean, it's every subject. It's not just the kind of stuff we're talking about here. It's the nature of reality. We have psychics on talking about consciousness and endless. But we have a tremendous series on health, etc. And these are added to all the time. And what we're doing is not just creating, or Jamie's creating, a platform where this phenomenal information is available. It's also a place where it's outside the range of the mainstream internet censorship of the other platforms. So we have a place where the information, to a much larger extent, can be protected as well as constantly added to. I'm absolutely delighted with it. I mean, you could be on there for months and not see all the content. It's an amazing thing that he's created, and it's just going to be added to more and more all the time, as it is every week.
Well, I'm sure that you can be really proud of all the work that you did, also bringing those two great talents to the world. I mean, your sons. And well, David, as always, I love talking with you, and I thank you for the name of. I cannot talk all humankind, all human beings, but I think you understand what I mean. I think you understand.
Yeah, I mean, look, we're all points of attention in the same infinite stream of consciousness. The labels are just temporary experiences. They're not who we are. We are consciousness. We are the consciousnesses having the experience. That's why millions of near-death experiences have basically described the same experience of leaving the body, and the reality they suddenly transform to is phenomenally different from this one, and their consciousness expands dramatically from what they experienced in the body, you know. And we get caught in these illusions of labels and what have you. Put them down. We're all one consciousness having different experiences, and we come from that point of perspective, and divide and rule becomes impossible. And without that, this cult cannot do what it wants to do.
Well, I take it as a wishing. I wish all people that hear this show, please wake up for humanity and nature. And again, David, if I don't stop this show, we can continue hours.
Okay.
So my dear friend, I wish you the best, and thank you for this show. And until the next time, and it will be a next time.
Yeah, sure.
I send you a big shalom from Israel.
Yeah, shalom from the Isle of Wight. See you soon.
Thank you, my friend. Bye-bye.
Bye.